Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the RetroGameFix.com Retro Jones podcast number 103. This is your host, Mitch.
And this is Mike.
And, you know, that I don't even have to think about that intro anymore. It just kind of just rolls right off the tongue. I'm just like, bah, and go, and there. We've done this 103-ish times.
Yeah, we've done it 103 times. It feels good. Every time. It makes me happy.
Yeah, man. Well, why don't you go ahead and throw out the contact information as we do?
As we are one to do, you can get a hold of us on the Twitters, on the Facebooks, and on the YouTubes. If you just go to one of those websites and put a good old slash after it and go to Retro Game Fix, you can get to us there. Otherwise, questions at RetroGameFix.com. Or there is a phone number, and I promise one of these days we're going to get back to doing voicemails, but 678-995-5103. You can always call and leave us a voicemail, 678-995-5103. And that's it. And by the way...
go ahead.
I do want to say, there are some broken things on the website right now. I had to move hosting for a variety of reasons. And in doing so, I changed some themes, and so a lot of the videos and that stuff isn't working. But the RSS feeds are up, and the podcast stuff is working. So any of the YouTube videos and things on the website are not working. But like I said, if you want to go watch the YouTube stuff, you would most likely are probably going to our channel on YouTube anyway instead of the website. But I just wanted to say, if you go to the website, that stuff is not working right now. So
right on.
That's that.
Okay. Well, I know we got a lot of stuff to talk this week. I don't even know. Where do we start this week, Mike?
Oh my God. Yeah, we do. I think, I don't know. I think I'm most passionate about the RetroPie stuff.
Yeah, you've really been into that this week. And actually, since we've been talking about it too, I definitely have been kind of focused on it too. So why don't you go ahead and kick it off since you're the one with the RetroPie?
So last week we had talked about the fact that I bought that RetroPie. I got everything kind of up to speed, but I didn't have a ton of time to play with it. Mm-hmm. That changed this week, and I got all the emulators installed. I started to play with it a little more. At work, I work and deploy websites through GitHub and Linux machines, so it wasn't new to me, but it was the first time that I actually jumped into command line stuff for kind of configuring Bluetooth and some other things that are built into RetroPie, but I wanted to just play with the command line stuff a little bit, which works fantastic. Mm-hmm. And so I got to do that. I got to load up my ROMs, and then I also started to play with the scraper that downloads all of the kind of box art and descriptions for the games, and that worked awesome. And
is that pretty quick?
Yeah, fairly quick. So I'll tell you about that in just a second. And then I bought a Bluetooth controller. So to rewind a half a second, yes. So here's how the scraper works, because other geek stuff I don't think anyone's going to be interested in. So here's how the scraper works. You get everything installed. You drag your ROMs over to this guy, and you start this scraper. Essentially, there's a database already selected, and you can just say, go find all of the games. And so I didn't select the MAME stuff, but I selected everything else that I had installed. Mm-hmm. And I think overall it took about an hour to get through around 4,000 titles.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit longer. I did have some problems with it earlier in the week where I was getting an error that said disk full. I'm like, well, my disk isn't full. And then people were saying, well, that could be because the server is slow or something's timing out. And so I was on the other side of the house from my router because I was using wireless. So I just moved the Raspberry Pi and monitor to an outlet closer to the router and did it again today. And yeah, and it went through perfectly. I got everything installed. And so the scraper worked perfect. And so, like I said, then when you're going through your systems, you get to see all the game art, and it makes it a much more enjoyable experience. But then they also have themes. And so I tweeted out pictures of the base theme. And a lot of people played with the RetroPie, so there's a lot of listeners that know this. But the pictures that I sent you, and I just recently tweeted out, was new themes, or different themes you can download. So I was playing with downloading new themes. Super easy. And again, I was doing some of this stuff through command line until I figured out that you don't have to use command line because it's all built into the user interface, but you can fire this thing up and download new themes, and so I downloaded that new theme. I got a keyboard and mouse working on it. I mean, everything works perfect. It's fucking perfect.
Well, when you sent me pictures of like the front end and stuff, like, wow, man, that is totally legit. And I'm looking at them actually on our Twitter right now. It just looks so good. It's so clean and like not cluttered. I mean, it's exactly how I would prefer something like that. You know, it doesn't. It's like sometimes you get like, you know, sometimes MAME is just all junky and cluttered, and I don't know. This is like totally streamlined and just looks really nice. I really want one now.
Yeah, you should get one. So the other great part is anytime you can hit start or select when you're in the emulator of choice, and then it pulls up another menu, so you can be like, so, you know, for like Nintendo, for example, I don't want to scroll through, you know, 600 games to get to the S's. Right, so you just hit select and you just go to S and hit A, and then boom, it brings you to S. So you can kind of filter it to make it easier to find stuff. So that's really nice. So they've kind of thought of just really small kind of user experience additions that make navigating the menus a hell of a lot easier. And man, it's really nice. You know, the other thing too that I want to say, and this may kind of segue in to the controller stuff, but everything that I've tried so far has been essentially plug and play. I got my PS4 controller to sync perfectly. I got this new Bluetooth controller to sync perfectly. I've gotten 2 keyboards that I tested to sync perfectly. It's just, you kind of plug it in. You have to go through a little bit of a configuration, which can be, I mean, depending, it's not plug and play like a normal consumer would be.
Yeah, but it's like not plug and play, I guess.
Right.
Probably.
Right. You kind of plug and play, and then it'll say like, oh, we detected a controller. If it's a Bluetooth, when you go into the menu, it goes back to kind of the Windows 95 kind of DOS-looking menus. But, you know, it with pretty minimal effort, it'll find your Bluetooth device. You select it, and then if you reboot the whatever and connect your Bluetooth device, it'll find it and just say, hey, either we found a controller that's not configured, or you just go to controller configuration, you hit A, and then once you're in there, it's just like basically hit the up button, hit the down button, hit the left button, hit the right button, hit the A button, you know, right? And you just kind of fly through it real quick, and then your Bluetooth device is ready to go. So, yeah, super simple.
Yeah, I totally have to get one of those for my TV. And I totally have to get one of those from the you tweeted out the picture of the Game Boy Advance that somebody had done, I guess earlier this week or last week or something like that. I'm like, I don't know. I guess it was before our last podcast because we talked about it, but I so have to do that. I'm so like still in the you know, my wallet is still smoking thing, even though it's not. Still kind of like I just spent a lot of money, even though I didn't. Phase right now, so I'm like, I'm really hesitant to pull the trigger, even though I think probably for one of those builds for the Game Boy Advance build, it's probably like under $100. I'm guessing
it'd probably be under $100, but yeah, but I think that's worth talking about more. I do want to hit on this controller I bought though before.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't want to sidetrack you.
No. Yeah. So I was speaking of the kind of controllers that I was syncing with it, I was going like, well, I want something that feels retro enough to play games on, and for the most part, there's a lot of shitty like USB retro controllers out there. And so I came across a couple controllers with kind of mixed reviews because from this company called 8-Bit Do. I'm guessing it's 8-Bit Dough, but they have a SNES controller, and then they have like a Famicom or a Super Famicom SNES controller that they released, and they have an N64 one, and then they actually have a Nintendo one that has 4 buttons on it, which kind of turned me off because I wish it would have just had the 2, because I'm kind of looking for like the most accurate representation. And then they have like a Pro controller that has the like joysticks on it, and then on the shoulders like some things that emulate some of the N64 stuff. But being kind of on a SNES kick right now, I decided to grab the Super Nintendo one, and I did get the US version. I was tempted to pick up the Super Famicom version, but
I would have gone with the US version.
Yeah, and I landed on that just based on the fact that, like, that's the controller that I used growing up. And for anybody that's wondering, like, what are the differences, the primary difference is the fact that it had purple and, like, lavender colored buttons on it, but the X and Y buttons were concave instead of convex, like but bubbled or whatever. So that's the one I kind of grew up playing on, and so I figured, well, that's the one I want to get. And so it was $35, and I'm thinking, you can find a lot of these USB Bluetooth controllers for, $10.
Yeah.
But they're usually garbage. And I said, well, I'm going to spend the extra money, and I tweeted out and asked people what they're using, and there was a pretty good response as far as this SNES controller went. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to pick it up. It was at Micro Center.
Yeah.
And it's nice as hell. So they give it to me, and this thing has like a nice cardboard sleeve. You slide out the center of it, like almost like a cell phone, like an iPhone that you're buying. It's in a hard shell cardboard case. You pull that open, and all of a sudden, like, there's your controller just sitting there in all its beauty. You pull that out, and underneath it, there's some really nice packaging that includes a keychain and your USB, and then in an instruction booklet. And not that, that goes a long way, but like the minute you open it, you go, okay, this is
feels like $35.
Yeah, this is more premium than I expected. And you take the controller out and you go, okay, well, this feels a little light, but the Nintendo controllers were pretty light. So I get home and I do a quick unboxing, and I also compare it to this SNES controller, which I'll post this video on our YouTube channel. And I'm like, this thing is fucking dead to rights as far as dimensions, weight, and button feel, everything goes. Mm-hmm. And so
except for the cord.
Except there's no cord, which is awesome, because I can't have a cord if I plug my Raspberry Pi into my TV, which I sit 10 feet from.
Right.
So, well, I could, but so then I plug it in to the RetroPie, and I start to game with it a little bit, and again, there was a little bit of setup there, but I noticed there's fucking really bad input lag on the Bluetooth. And I'm like, oh boy, this is bad news. So I plug it in via USB cable, no lag. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's Bluetooth lag on the controller, or maybe there's Bluetooth lag with my RetroPie.
Sure. And
I can't tell, and people have had mixed results. So I go get my PS4 controller, sync that up via Bluetooth. Same input lag.
So it's definitely on the Raspberry Pi.
So it's definitely on the Raspberry Pi. So I Google about Bluetooth input lag, about the Raspberry Pi. Again, great documentation, couple links that says, hey, either you can, again, I did it via command line because I'm a fucking geek and I didn't realize I could do this with the interface. They're like, hey, just change these 3 settings. So, I hit command line and I'm sitting here like, CD whack, opt whack, RetroPie whack, just to get to the directory and then open it up and do all the edits. But I made the edits to the config file. Reboot the RetroPie, resync the controller, no input lag. This controller, fucking perfect, 100% worth it. I can't tell the difference between it and a wired controller at this point. That's awesome on the system, and it's so worth it, man. And it's a little spendy if you sit there and go, well, I want another one, because they got an N64 controller as well.
Is it the same price?
That one's $50 actually, and there's mixed reviews about that stick.
Yeah,
and I'm curious. Yeah, and I'm curious if they're reviewing the stick as if it should be more responsive than the stick that is actually on the N64 controller, or because if it's as good as the crappy N64 controller, I'm fine with it. But there are mixed reviews on that one. But I will probably spend the $50 for that guy just to see what it's like, just because this SNES one has been such a nice controller for me. So
I think it probably, when I do mine, I'm probably going to do the SNES one, just like you did. I've got my 64 and the EverDrive on it. So, I mean, I've got I can at least play that on the original hardware and stuff if I want to, and I can pretty much play any game on the 64 in that way. I'm probably not going to put, all I'm trying to say is I'm probably not going to put 64 stuff on it. So
yeah, let me send you just this. So here's the other controller you can get. And so this is the one I was describing to everybody that has the 2 analog sticks, the 4 buttons. but I wasn't feeling that.
No, because you want something that, like, if you're retro gaming, you don't want something that looks like that. And really, to describe what it looks like a SNES controller that's like colored or designed like the NES controller, the original NES controller. And it has 2 analog sticks in the middle.
Yeah, basically,
it just looks too whacked out.
It actually basically looks like the Wii U Classic controller. Or the Wii Classic controller that had the analog sticks in it. And actually, I'm going to text you this one, too. And this bothers me because I wish they would have just put the 2 buttons on the NES controller. And they put the 4. And I'm like, well, that sucks. And you could certainly...
Yeah, they put it in a... Because this was what I was wondering, too, when you were telling me about that. The 4 buttons are in kind of like a plus formation. Because I was like, well, did they put them on top or something or whatever? No, they actually realigned the buttons so that it's in like, so on your left side, you got the D-pad, up, down, left, right. And then on the right side, you got your up, down, left, right and buttons, which kind of looks stupid.
It looks stupid, and then it sucks because it's just like, there's so many games like Track and Field or some of those games that are button mashers that I want that feel. And so it sucks that, I guess, as far as these 8-bit dough controllers go, I think the SNES one and maybe the N64 one is probably going to be the only ones I pick up. I just really wish they would have did an actual real representation of the NES controller as well. And that's not to say, and if you're on that NES controller page and you scroll down the images and look at the packaging, like they go all out with the packaging.
They do. It's actually cool. It looks like a NES that it's packaged in.
They really go all out, but it's like I want one that's only 2 buttons. Like I want.
Yeah, and it's got shoulder buttons too. But I understand the need for them. Like there's no getting around it. Yeah, if you're retro gaming, like retro consoles, you got to have 4 buttons as well as the shoulder buttons at the bare minimum.
Yeah, I just, as an enthusiast, I'm just like, I only want the 2 because that's what I would think if I was playing NES games.
Yeah, for sure. But I could live with playing NES games with an SNES controller.
SNES controller, for sure.
Because that looks legit, like it actually, like...
Oh, it's...
the image that you showed me about with the original... SNES controller and the one that you just got, it's dead on.
Yeah, it's dead on. And I mean, even flipping it over, and I'll post that video on YouTube, but they even have the screws are in the same place. It's dead on. It's dead on, man. So yeah,
that's what they're going for. You want it to be as lifelike as possible, or you want it to be as close to the original as possible. So,
yeah, so a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'll probably like I said, I'll probably get the N64 one just to have it. I don't know if I'll do that by next podcast, but yeah, God,
it's weird. Yeah, now you got me thinking too. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I want that too.
Yeah, actually, Amazon has that one for $40. So you're getting kind of expensive in controllers, but like, it's
It's a one-time deal.
It's kind of a one-time deal, and you go, yeah, it is what it is.
The games are ROMs, so it's like a one-time expense,
Yeah, and it's funny because I was telling Carrie, I was like, yeah, I did the RetroPie thing, and she's like, what's that? And I was like, well, it's the deal, and I was doing the, I told her today, I was like, well, I can plug it in. We have all the retro games. It's like the NES Classic. And she's like, oh, we can play all of them? I was like, yeah. So I brought her downstairs, and I showed her it was running through the scraper thing. And she was like, oh, my God. And so I can't wait to get that upstairs and do some, like, Dr. Mario and some of the other stuff. The only thing that's really missing from this that I haven't been able to find is, like, I want Genesis controllers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there isn't any.
They don't have any Sega of any kind.
No, not that brand. And I'm kind of iffy on. There's a brand that does that's called Tomy or something, and I know that shit is garbage.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's yeah, man. It's either way you can find a controller to control the shit, right? So that's not a problem. But if you like, and this kind of goes back to sometimes we've had the conversation about what is retro, and if in ways kind of complained about doing things like this in a roundabout way, but.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's like if I'm playing the ROMs and I have the systems in the basement to actually play and do on a CRT. A lot of this for me is being able to have this thing in the living room where Carrie and I can kind of fire down, whatever game we feel like playing, at 9 after the kid goes to sleep. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's dope, dude.
So anyway, but speaking of RetroPies, yeah, that Game Boy Advance thing, dude.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, the only thing I'm like trying to figure out here is the button situation. I mean, I could make that work easily. As far as the wiring and stuff like that goes, it would be fine. And I could Dremel the two holes because there's basically four buttons instead of the standard two. Like the one that you had put on there, like had added two buttons. So I guess I would just have to figure out that situation, and that would be the only thing I would need to really like think out. But everything else looks pretty easy for the most part. I think I've done a lot more complex stuff than that before, many times. But I don't really know anything about the Raspberry Pi right now. But from what you're telling me, the everything sounds pretty easy with that, anyways.
Yeah, the Raspberry Pi, as far as kind of desoldering and resoldering, the board's pretty wide open, and so you shouldn't run into many issues trying to get some of that stuff working. So.
I don't think so. I mean, I kind of looked at it a little bit in detail, and it looks pretty brainless as far as, not brainless, I don't want to say that, but I mean, compared to what I've done, compared to what I've done before that, it seems like something I should be able to whip up without really any problems at all. So
yeah, I think what you'll have to figure out there is once you start, if you're yeah, you have to drill in for new buttons and new holes if you want to add the extra two buttons, which you'll want. And then also, how do what do you use to configure those buttons to the RetroPie, since you won't be using Bluetooth or the Raspberry Pi, since you won't be using Bluetooth or USB? Are you putting in your own buttons, or are you using the stuff that was already built into the Game Boy Advance to keep kind of the integrity of that retro feel? I don't know how you would do that.
I think it looks pretty. I mean, I could be totally way off base about this, but like, essentially, I believe like the pins on the RetroPie, I think would work like kind of like like a keyboard encoder.
Like a keyboard encoder, yeah. And I think that's what it's there for, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in that case, you're just soldering. You're just soldering
to the pin that you need.
Directly to the pin. Yeah, exactly. As long as you don't short anything, you're going to be fine as far as that goes. So, shrink wrap the wire over the actual pin, then you won't actually, then you don't have to worry about that. But I think that it totally looks doable. The only thing that I don't know about is one of my students at one point was telling me about his Raspberry Pi, and this was like, I don't know if it was a 1 or a 2, but he was telling me that there are only certain like LCD screens that work with it, or LED screens that work with the Raspberry Pi. I don't know anything about that, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know.
I guess that's the first I've heard of that.
I don't know if this for a fact. This was like a 14-year-old kid telling me this. So I don't know.
I mean, plug and play probably, but as far as just the fact that it's kind of running a Linux distro, you can make anything work on Linux. You just got to you're going back to, essentially, for Windows people, you're kind of going back to a DOS prompt. But don't be don't be afraid of it. Like, you can configure anything on Linux if you.
I would assume it would be pretty easy, but I don't know if it was like a hardware issue or something like that. Like they wanted you to exclusively buy like whatever but it seems like the whole thing is so open source that it doesn't make any sense that they would do that.
It doesn't make any sense. Well, I was talking when I posted that thing out as far as controllers go. Didn't pull up his thing. Agon. God damn it! I butchered his Twitter handle, but he was like, yeah, I use my PS3 controllers, and I tried to sync my PS3 controller through Bluetooth. He's like, well, you can't do the PS3 controller directly through Bluetooth, but if you install this, then you can. And like with Linux, especially with everything that's, do you know what GitHub is?
I don't. Okay. I don't even pretend to know anything about Linux.
Yeah, well, I won't go deep then, but essentially GitHub is a open source build repository for all of these, for a variety of different applications and software, right? But for the most part, it's where people build stuff and they share it. So if you go into a Linux distribution, you can type in a pretty basic command line. You'd install the GitHub. You'd install GitHub through it. Yep. Through like bundle, execute, GitHub, whatever. And then anything that's out there, you could just be like, you'd type sudo, which essentially means root, and you just go like sudo install Bluetooth, whatever the fuck it is you're trying to install, and then it installs it, and then the next thing you know, you can, sync your PS3 controller. It's really basic stuff. But there's some learning there. But yeah, he was like, yeah, you just need to install this, and then you can sync your PS3 controller. And I didn't go through the effort. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to do. But this is certainly where we're getting into stuff that are custom builds and wouldn't be like something you would hand off to, some friend that's like, I just want an NES Classic. I mean, this is hobbyist, builds, but
it's gonna take a little bit of time, but
yeah, it's pretty basic stuff. So I think if you pick one up, man, I'm just gonna tell you right now though, like the more I see of all this shit, the more I'm just like, what can I make it do? Like it's gonna be this dark hole of like, I spent $80 total on this thing with the case and the power supply and every other. Actually $50 on that, but then the controller. Now I'm just like, what else can I make it do?
Yeah, I know. That's my problem. I gotta another thing besides just not wanting to really spend cash on anything right now.
The time
is the time, because I know how I am, and you know how I am, and I know how you are.
It's a rabbit hole, man. It
is a rabbit hole.
It's a geek thing.
I'll just become obsessed with it and think of nothing but that until I burn myself out on it. So I know that's inevitable, but I'm going to have fun doing it in the meantime. But it's just not right now, not right this second. I have to, and me saying, when I've got that seed planted, when it's there, it's only a matter of time.
It's a matter of time. But yeah, let me, I'm going to be hitting this thing pretty hard over the next couple weeks. And
great.
So by the time...
Well, that means over the next couple of weeks, I'll probably be like, God, I just have to buy it.
So the problem is, the Switch comes out on the 3rd, so I don't have a ton of stuff I really want to get finished up with over the next, 5 weeks or so until that comes out. But, my love for overclocking.
Yep.
So you can overclock the RetroPie, and there's a variety of accessories you can buy that... allow for overclocking in addition to fans and other heat sinks and things like that. And I'm like, shit. Yeah. I'm going to be overclocking this thing because there are mixed results with performance when you get into things like GameCube and Dreamcast. There's not quite enough power to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Great. And I'm like, that doesn't bother me because for me it's kind of my Nintendo, Genesis, NES, Master System kind of tool, but... certainly, I want to see what I can push this thing to do. So,
yeah, I get that. Yeah, man, cool. Well, I'm interested to. I'm cool if you keep talking about it because it's just gonna fire me up to just go ahead and just do it at some point here. I've got a lot to think about as far as I still have more money to spend. In the near future here, I guess by mid-month next month, I promised this guy that I would go pick up that Williams taxi machine.
Oh yeah.
I guess it's in Georgia, but it's 4 hours.
Wait. Are we at the point yet?
Not really, but we could be. Go ahead, fire it up, man.
All right. Oops.
Let me tell you my story. I got a man-sized predicament, and it's a big one. Goes like this. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I do actually. Before the show today, Mike had asked me, you got any man-sized predicaments? And I was like, yeah, I think I got a small man-sized predicament. So
whoa. We're not going to use the word small with any type of man-sized predicament.
No, I mean, if there are dudes that are 5 feet tall or something like that. I mean, they can still have man-sized predicaments, right? Well, okay, all right.
I'm a shorter guy, Mitch. I'm 5'9", so I'm a tiny little stocky little man.
But
when it comes to man-sized predicaments, they're big ones, and they go like this.
Yeah. Well, no, you're going to be happy then, because I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, I don't know how big of a man-sized predicament that is. And now, since this has kind of been the build-up to it, for me at least, I've kind of been rolling it through my head the entire show so far. And now I feel like it's definitely a man-sized predicament at this point. You know?
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's great.
It goes like this.
All right, let's hear it.
So anyway, last week I had an awesome pickup, right? Just the day before we had our podcast. I picked up a Funhouse, right?
Yep, you did.
I love it.
Yeah,
I think
awesome.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
I've been having a blast playing this thing, and I've just been playing the crap out of it all week. So anyway, one of my buddies that always texts me back and forth about pinballs and stuff because he's like obsessed with them as well. And he's also like building a pretty substantial collection for himself. Who's like, all on this one website, there's this guy with an Attack from Mars. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this one or not.
And you're like, yes, I've heard of that.
No, for you. I'm saying that for you. Have you heard?
Oh, yeah, dude. Yes. I live in a little bit of a pinball hole, but yes, I've heard of Attack from Mars.
Okay. Well, Attack from Mars is like, just to give you a little bit of an idea, on the like Pinside's top 100, it's like number 4. And on the Internet Pinball Database, it's like number 12. And granted, Funhouse is number 14 on that list. Attack from Mars is number 12. So anyway, somebody had one that had been routed. And this is a high dollar machine when everything's working, and it's like an average condition Pinside, which I usually go by Pinside's valuations when I know if I'm paying retail or under or whatever. Average condition, about a $7,700 pin, right?
Yep. So
anyway, highly sought after. So anyway, some guy's got one. Some guy's got one that he wants like $5,500 for. That is like, it's just come off of a route. It's filthy. I mean, it's absolutely filthy, and it's blowing like a fuse. And I looked up, and I'm like, oh, that's from. I looked up in the manual. I'm like, okay, it's for the lamp matrix. Something's probably jammed in one of the lamps, shorting it out, or, it's something that won't take me more than an hour to fix. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm like, okay, I've been thinking about it for the last couple of days, and I just shot him a email today, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I was like, I don't know if you're looking for trades or anything, since you apparently route machines, but I will offer you my Funhouse and my Earthshaker for this Attack from Mars. And I mean, fair enough. He's asking $5,500, and both those machines are worth probably a little bit more than that. And they both work 100%, as opposed to one that would probably need a little work for him and that is filthy as shit. But I just sent him an email because I was like, look, if he says yeah, then I can think about it. And then if I decided, yeah, I want to do that, like, I would just do it. And if I decided, no, I don't want to do it, I would just disappear off the face of the earth and just not email him back. So
right.
The more I think about this, the more it is a man-sized predicament, because I'm like, I would be torn. I love Funhouse.
But you just got the Funhouse, yeah.
I just got it. It's insane. It really is crazy to even think of this, but I love the Funhouse, and it's something that I've wanted for a long time. But Attack from Mars is on like a different level, like it's like AAA across the board. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
So I guess it is kind of a man-sized predicament. Although if the guy emailed me back right now and said, yeah, I'll do it, I'd be like, I have to do it, because looking at my Earthshaker, I like Earthshaker as well. But if I'm getting the Taxi, I'm just gonna have too many pinballs for the spaces that I have. So
what was it? It was Attack from Mars and what?
Earthshaker
in your Funhouse.
Earthshaker is okay, but my side art on my Earthshaker's fucked up. It's something that I've had to that I know I'm gonna have to restore, and the back glass is kind of wonky. But even considering those things, for what he's asking for the Attack from Mars, and the fact that it doesn't work at the moment 100%, like it needs some work, for two perfectly working 100% ones, considering what the value of both of those would be as well, like it's about there, or maybe a little bit more.
I feel like I'm kind of with you, and again, I'm not a pinball connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination, But thinking about the value and probably the rarity of that machine and your ability to fix it,
I can fix it. I can clean it up.
You know, I feel like I would say you've kind of got your unicorns in Pinbot and Bride of Pinbot, although they're not the hardest machines to find.
Those are the ones that I really enjoy.
Those are the ones you really enjoy. Plus, you've got the theme park.
The roller coaster tycoon.
Roller tycoon. What? Yeah, I think.
Roller coaster tycoon. Plus, I've got the whirlwind. Like I'm still going to end up with 6 pins. Like right now, I have 6 pins. I'm still going to end up with 6 pins once I pick up the taxi, if that happened.
But Attack of Mars though is
Attack from Mars, right?
Is a cornerstone piece.
Well, it's like you know. It's got to be made by I haven't really looked it up, but I'm like, it's so similar to like Medieval Madness, but just a different theme. And it's just an awesome machine. You know, I feel like that's a no brainer, even though like, again, and the thing is on the play fields in that area anyways, it's clear coated. So all the grime and shit, I might just have to take everything off the playfield and wax it a few times, like completely actually shop it out, and all the grime will clean up nicely. I'm 100% sure of that. So, I mean, there are a couple wear spots on it, but, you know, there's a couple wear spots on, you know, everything except for the Pinbot in my collection right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you. Hey,
could be touched up, could be fixed easily.
So it's funny. So I just did a search for Attack from Mars Pinball.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And our ridiculous friends from the Pinside forums came up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And well, no, not all ridiculous, but a question came up, and I don't know, maybe this is a hater, maybe it's not, but said, honestly, I don't get the appeal of this pin, blah, 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 blah. It's barren as hell. I was bored with it, all this.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a plethora of posts that are like, the humor, the spaceship. One guy says, wide open playfield, easy to understand goals. Another guy that's like, great theme, music integration, funny, good vibe, right? And is that, I mean, you know, so to ask you, why is Attack from Mars one of the more popular machines? Is it for those reasons that it's just kind of this classic that has this great vibe, and it's
a blast and it's hilarious. Like the goals, like you've got, you know, like there are certain points where I think there are like 5 cities or whatever that the aliens attack throughout the thing. Like there's like the Statue of Liberty, I think the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something. You know, the Eiffel Tower. Just to like, I just off the top of my head, that's what I can think of. But like, you have to, you know, complete a certain goal, like destroy the spaceship, you know, among other things, to, you know, to defeat it. But you got like a time limit where you have to like destroy the spaceship in that amount of time or whatever. I know there's a mode where you have to like kill aliens, and the little aliens that are on the playfield start to shake back and forth, which is freaking hilarious.
Oh, that's funny.
It's just the humor in it, like the narration, like the humor, the integration with the music, the sounds, just the flow, in my opinion. Just all of that stuff in general. That's what put to me. I mean, look, I love Funhouse, and look, I'm perfectly content. And there's a very good chance that dude's going to come back and be like, fuck off, you know, and I'm okay with that. I love what I got, and I'm perfectly happy with it. But it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, well, you never know unless you're going to ask, or unless you ask. But you know, it's on like, if there's anything, like it's on the top AAA titles list in most people, including my own. It's kind of one of those that I kind of don't even like have on my list, because it's kind of like one of those that I'm like, it's kind of unattainable. There are like certain ones on my list that are there. Medieval Madness, or even a Medieval Madness remake, which is basically the exact same thing, is really similar to this. Whereas in like in Medieval Madness, when you know, blow up the castle just like shakes around and just goes nuts. Like the spaceship in the middle of this one does the same thing. So it's kind of similar in that respect. But if I won the lottery tomorrow, you know, my Grail
would be Medieval Madness.
Well, I mean, my like, okay, like now that I have infinite money here, like the ones that I would like to buy, Because right now I'm like, I want to have at least like 6 pins in my home. You know what I'm saying? Like quantity as well. And I have a lot of quality as well in titles. But these are like, some pinballs are just ridiculously expensive, and Medieval Madness is on that AAA list. Attack from Mars is on that AAA list. Circus Voltaire, I'd probably put that on there too. Just all these machines that are like, can sometimes push like, 10 grand. Or more, you know what I'm saying? And like, I don't think in my right mind that I would probably, unless I trade, I'm not, it's not really realistic for what I'm going for the most part, unless this for me would be like a perfect storm. I would regret having to get rid of the Funhouse, but like, again, this is kind of on a different level where it was like, I don't know. It's just on a different level. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, I feel you.
But for what I have in my basement, I'm like super happy with. And I think pretty much most collectors that aren't like, millionaires would probably say, hey, you got a damn nice collection. You know what I'm saying? But if that guy came back and said, and he could make the decision for me, and that's perfectly fine. I'm always in that spot where I'm like, why not ask?
You don't know unless you ask.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have any problem asking. If he ignores me, then fine. If he says, no, that's stupid, then that's fine. If he's a guy that routes stuff and makes money off of routing machines anyways, like a couple perfectly working machines would probably somewhat be appealing to him. But if he makes a decision for me and says no, then perfect. But I don't know. It's kind of a man-sized predicament because I'd be torn. Because I just got my Funhouse like a week ago, and I think it would be absolutely fucking insane. But,
right? But well, and then the other side of that coin, and we're both kings of kind of justifying the way we spend money. But this is one of those things that you can look at and say, but if I didn't sell the other two machines in order to get the Funhouse, I wouldn't even be in this position essentially to throw, two fairly sought after pins at this Attack from Mars.
They're great. Yeah, they're
maybe divine intervention. Maybe there's a higher power at play here for you, Mitch.
Saying, dude, you need these pinballs. Well, and get this too, because I thought about it, and in my Baby Pac-Man and the Flash Gordon, I don't know if I brought this up last time or not, but I think realistically, because I traded my Thayer's Quest and I got the Flash Gordon in a couple $100. So the Thayer's Quest, I had $300 in, like total.
Right.
So, and getting a couple $100 back, I had $100 in that, right? So my Flash Gordon, essentially, I had $100 in. And, which is insane. In my Baby Pac-Man, I had a lot of labor in that one. And I don't count that. It's fun. Like we talked about last time. It's a hobby, right? I probably had, I'm thinking like $500 or less in that. I'm thinking, no more than $500 in, you know what I'm saying? So in my Funhouse, I have about $600 in. And in my, Earthshaker, I have about $1,200 in. So for $1,800 to be able to get a between $7,000 and $8,000 machine, I think that would be. I'd have to pat myself on the back for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
And it's like a triple A title, if there is such a thing. I'm just making that up, but it would just be unbelievable. So it's kind of a man-sized predicament, and it's kind of not a man-sized predicament because, and I don't even think like, look, I'm saying maybe there's a low percentage chance this even works out, but if it did, man, I'd be balling. You know what I'm saying? Like in a good way, not like crying my eyes out or anything. But
not sad Jordan. Like,
no, I would not be sad Jordan.
The Packers fans or the Pittsburgh fans tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So
both games worked out as exactly as I hoped.
Yeah, me too.
By the way.
Yep. Me too, man. So anyway, long story short, that's my man-sized predicament. I feel like that probably belongs on the man-sized predicament segment.
I think so. I wish we would have kept a running list up to this point of our man-sized predicaments.
See what percentage of them actually like resolves.
And then maybe at the end of the year we do a man-sized predicament annual show.
Well, that's good because this is the first man-sized predicament of the year, right?
Yeah. Well, I fired it up last week.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me pull up Google real quick. What was our man-sized predicaments last week?
Let me look at the chat here.
I haven't had any yet.
Maybe it had to. I don't know, dude. I remember you firing it up last week. I don't remember what it was about.
Let's just do the attack from Mars. And while I'm doing this, I have something funny. So we've talked about this before. You know how sometimes you like if you get a little buzz or something like that, you like say things and you're like, fuck, now I got to deal with that. I did that with work again this weekend.
Mm-hmm. What'd you do?
It's a long story, but anyway, I'm going to work tomorrow. Like, it essentially was like, we're going through my 6th reorganization in 10 years, but leadership never changes. And so I kind of called that out in a very blunt email, including leaders. And I think I'm going to go. Have you seen that Seinfeld where George quits? But then he goes back to work and acts like he didn't quit.
Right.
I didn't quit. I didn't quite quit. But I'm going to go to work tomorrow and just act like I didn't send.
They're going to be like, Mike, what are you doing here?
I'm going to act like I didn't send that email.
What do you mean?
God, it's going to be fucking awkward. I've been seeing my email blow up. I haven't read any of them.
Oh, man. Really? They're probably like, Mike, don't come in tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm not going to read them until I get to work, and I'm just going to...
I'd be like, I don't read them when I'm not in, when I'm off the clock. George Costanza. Can't stand you.
What's the deal with email? Whenever you get drunk, you just email people, and it never turns out good.
Yeah, that's true. You should have your computer should only be able to boot up with like a breathalyzer or something like that.
Well, it started. Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's gonna. I'm. So the fucked up part is like I'm actually not. I'm not gonna roll back. Like I'm not going to pull back on the stuff I said. Like I will. I will own it. Yeah. But there's just more tact. Because I've done it before. And I keep saying, hey, there's more tactful ways, blah, 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 blah. It's not a very good way to be a leader, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to see.
That's going to be a long walk into work tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be a long drive into work tomorrow, too.
Well, I'm saying like walking from your car.
Here's what I do. I'm going to get there early. I always get there early then. So then, everyone else that comes in has to see me there early and be like, oh, Mike isn't really that pissed. We'll see what happens. Or, God damn it.
Good luck with that.
I'll let you know. So anyway, let's I'm not using the word switch in our podcast anymore whenever we need to go into new segments. Let's move on to the Nintendo Switch. What do you think? Do we have anything else on here to touch on?
Well, I mean, just the Switch, really. I think.
Yeah.
We have some crazy ideas about marketing, but I don't know if we want to get into that or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing about marketing. I can't believe I didn't think of it, but I was listening to a podcast this week. Mm-hmm. This podcast really isn't even necessary. Probably doesn't even need to exist. It's like the podcast is actually it's so completely unnecessary to even have this podcast.
I don't even follow you right now, and you're going there, huh?
But one of the hosts of this podcast that was unnecessary thought he had a great idea about the fact that the Wii U wasn't marketed correctly. It's not. Never was, and it just never hit me.
Like most people, did he say something like, most people didn't even know that it was not just an upgrade to your Wii?
Wait. The Wii U wasn't just an upgrade to the Wii?
No, can you believe it? It was a completely different system.
Mind-boggling. So anyway, the Nintendo Switch, I've got a lot.
I thought you owned one.
I do own one. So here's the thing. I've thought a lot about the Nintendo Switch last week, and as a Wii U owner, I'm kind of 50. I'm gonna buy one because the hardware looks great, and I feel like $300 is a fair price, and I'm not gonna need the accessories that cost $1 billion, other than probably the Pro controller, which is $70, which is fine. Because I'm one of those people that always says, over the 5 years you own this thing, does it really? What's the extra $10 really bother me? So, but I also got to thinking. I touched on this last week. It's Mario Kart, awesome. Splatoon, awesome. Zelda, awesome. Xenoblade, awesome. Right, and a lot of these games, great. Cannot wait. But I'm starting to wonder if, the Mario Kart's not getting upgrades. I'm just starting to wonder, like, all of those games came out on the Wii U, and it did not move the needle. And despite Nintendo's terrible marketing out of the gate for the Wii U, people figured out what it was later on, and certainly it missed that window to create excitement. But
right,
you didn't own a Wii U, and you were like, I'm going to end up getting one. And everybody that I've heard talk about it is like, I don't even know if I really want it or not, but I bought one. So are you still excited about it a week after we've kind of talked?
About the Switch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why, too. I mean, all these ones that are going to show up on the Switch anyways that were on the Wii U. I don't know why I would buy a Wii U if I could just go ahead and buy the Switch, and all these games are practically going to be released on there anyways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you. No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm excited. I wouldn't either. I'm still drawing this, like, I'm more thinking of it. Is that going to be enough? Because it wasn't enough to get people to buy the Wii U. Like, you didn't buy the Wii U, and you knew what it was, and it had all these great games. So what's the difference between, as a person that didn't buy the Wii U, for you, what is the difference between the Switch and the Wii U? Was it? I mean, and I'm going to ask this seriously, like, was it maybe just a generation off from the Wii U, or the Wii U wasn't really marketed towards adults? Like this, the Switch definitely has a more adult vibe to it.
Here's the thing. I was meant to get a Wii U, but I just never pulled the trigger, and that says something in itself. But the Switch, I mean, it's really just the game. Right now, I'm just looking at the games that are going to be on it and that are promised on it. And look, there's plenty of good games on the Wii U as well. But at this point, it was like, I just waited too long. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, right out of the gate, trust me, I didn't know what the fuck a Wii U was. I thought that it was an upgrade to the Wii or something, that was my initial thought on it. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's just some kind of like next generation Wii. It's the same thing, but like, I don't need to get one of those either. So, well, I mean, that didn't go on for that long, but that was my initial thought. And I don't know. I just feel like, I don't really need one right now, or I don't know. The Switch is the price point's good. And, I don't know. It's a good question. It's a really good question. The Zelda looks amazing, and look, really, I've been paying attention more to the games and stuff. And I know last week we were talking about it. I was just sitting there watching previews as we were talking about the Switch of like everything that's going to be coming out on it. It just looks amazing. It definitely strikes a nerve with me where I'm like, I got to have that because these are the type of games that I would play,
I feel you. And that's kind of what I was looking at too. Cause for me, I bought the Wii U.
I will say this too, like the most obvious that I've completely missed, the portability of it. Like that, I'm a portable guy for sure. Mm-hmm. I prefer them because it's more convenient for me, and the docking station, all that stuff, like just its functionality. That right there, that's the most obvious reason that I almost completely passed.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because this is the funniest part is, as marketing for systems go, Nintendo is saying it's a console that's portable, and people are arguing that, like, well, it's a console that's portable, it's underpowered, but then people are saying, hey, if you think about it as a portable that's dockable, then it's way overpowered and it's fucking phenomenal. And for me, it's weird because I think we've never had something that actually executed in this way before. That it's kind of blazing a trail where people want to identify it with one or the other. And I feel like it would have behooved Nintendo to market it as a portable that was dockable.
As a portable.
But for me, in my use case, well, for my use case, it's a portable that's dockable, even though I'm going to primarily play it docked. I don't think of it as a console because of the other consoles that I own that are much more powerful. So for this, I go, hey, it's a portable that I can dock, right?
Sure. They need both. I mean, really, what it is helps with the marketing one way or another. I mean, you can it's really easy to justify both ways. Sure, it's an overpowered portable. Or, for the price point, that's maybe where it'd be kind of, turn you off if you look at it that way. So you can look at it the other way. Well, it's a dockable. It's like can be dockable. It's a console that can also be used as portable. Then you can look at that for the price point. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I guess it kind of works both ways. And that's fortunate for, just the innovation on this, that's what's going to sell it, I think.
Yeah, I really think this is also the time, and it's weird because I feel like, and we've talked about this with Super Mario Run and the cost of that and the brand and Pokemon Go. This is the first time that I really feel like Nintendo, for the last, 6 to 9 to 12 months maybe, has really been in the forefront with a lot of things where there's this soft measurable brand-wise, and I'm not going to get into the weeds there, but Nintendo's Pokemon came out, and they didn't make a lot of money on Pokemon because they only had a very small stake in the company that released that. Then they released the Super Mario Run, and then they did the Nintendo Classic as well. And even though you couldn't find a Nintendo Classic, every one of those articles was Nintendo to release the Nintendo Switch. And this is the first time that, regardless, I've heard people say, yeah, you know what? After that weird Japanese press conference, I was not super excited, but I pre-ordered it anyway because I'm ready for another Nintendo console. Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, it looks high quality. It looks the part. It's hitting with a Zelda that, yeah, you can still get it on Wii U. Wii U feels like the little kid way to play it. I don't want to play it the little kid way. I want to play it the big adult way.
Yeah, I hear you. I just feel like for me and for what I do and for how I game a lot of the times, look, like the stationary stuff, like a console, like is my arcade in the basement. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I do that until I'm tired. And then when I'm tired, I'm like, I'm just going to go lay in bed and play some video games. It's like, as sad as it is. And look, I read books too, but, most of the time I'm just like, I just want to play a video game before I go to bed. It's like reading a book for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the great thing about it, though, is that's where this marketing is. On one hand, you have people arguing, well, it's a console first, blah, 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 or it's a portable first. You know what? At the end of the day, it's whatever you want it to be. And for you, it's a portable. And for me, it's a console that I can actually just buy another dock for, because I'll probably buy 2 extra docks. So for me, it's a console that I can just undock and move to another freaking TV, right? And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's multi-purpose. You're right. I mean, it's just like whatever your needs are as a gamer, it can kind of fill those needs. Like it's not really a stretch either way, and I don't know. It's versatile, and versatility in this instance is valuable. I think it's valuable, and I think $299 is a pretty good price point for that. I don't know. I mean, because sometimes, I'd maybe like to go ahead and dock it and play it, but I think most of the time I'm going to play it as a portable. Probably, I don't like really being stationary, unless I'm just about to go to bed. I like the game before I go to bed. That's kind of my thing.
Right. I feel you. Yeah. No. And like,
or if I'm traveling around or something like that, and I got a break. Yeah.
But this is also one of those times that, like, for you, it's a this is like the perfect system for you, right? And
kind of is, yeah.
And then kind of like to what I was just saying, it's also kind of the perfect system for me. I like to play on my TV for the most part, but I can play it on any TV without spending an extra $300 per TV, right? So it's kind of this one thing that I think fills this really needed niche, and man, I hope it works out for them. And
I think they like we talked about last time, like everything you were talking about, and like you just talked about as well, like everything that's been coming up to this point, like the, you know, their crazy marketing schemes for like the Nintendo's the NES Classic, where they didn't release enough. Of course, they knew they weren't going to release enough, and they kind of just released a limited amount. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't release any more of them, even though I know there are rumors that they're going to be released whenever. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just didn't release them again. Everything that they've done up to this point has just drawn attention to Nintendo, and like you said, everything has mentioned the Switch as well. So that's part of their like long game, you know, in the advertisement realm. So, and just getting the hype up for this thing, you know. So I think that's different too. So I guess it's a different way of doing things. I don't know if it can be an annoying way of doing things at sometimes, but I think that's probably going to help them out quite a bit. So I don't think this is going to fall in Wii U territory, you know, in terms of marketing. No,
I don't either. Well, so here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that I've been seeing on the internet. And it feels like everybody's again, for some reason, it feels like everybody wants to find a reason to crap
complaining.
Complain about Nintendo. And I've done it too, right? I do it on Twitter. People have seen it. I've done
You're no
it.
saint.
Right. I'm no saint. I'm also a professional. But and I listened to three of my favorite podcasts, more Nintendo focused, these last couple of weeks, all have contributors from Canada. And every one of the people from Canada had to remind every US host that it was going to be $100 more in Canada. I don't understand how you can blame Nintendo for that, right? Like, how can you blame?
That's your currency, dude.
like, isn't everything more expensive in Canada? Like, I understand that it's more expensive, but for people that have already bought a PS4 or an Xbox One or both, and then like Nintendo's not just going to give it to you. You don't just get it for free. Something else you might get for free. That costs
that we don't
that cost thousands of dollars. I have thousands and thousands of dollars annually. Like, the least of my concerns in that consideration would be the extra $100 on a Nintendo Switch. And I understand that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I understand that you could say, well, it's a different taxes and blah, 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 and the Nintendo Switch costs more. Doesn't mean Canada's healthcare. Yeah, I get it. I get all of it. But the cost of living differences between, like, my premiums alone on healthcare, and I don't want to get political per se, but if I'm going to hear every Canadian citizen complain about the price of their goods, when my premiums alone are $6,000 annually, and I know I'm on the low end.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For me, it's probably about, like, you know, I would probably end up, instead of paying like these healthcare premiums that I hopefully will never have to use, I would pledge. Look, if I can get into that system somehow, one way or another, like, I pledge to you, I will buy a Nintendo Switch every single month for $400. You know what I'm saying? I'll buy 15 of them by the end of the year. Cool. I would rather spend it on that than spend it on fucking healthcare, which I get no value from personally. Thank God, right? But not that I'm saying I want anything to be wrong with me or anything like that, but I'm saying that, like, I am the type of person that I have it in case I need it, but I do not like going to the doctor, nor will I ever go to the doctor unless I am on my deathbed. You know what I'm saying?
No, I feel you.
But I'm paying for it.
Exactly. And I think the funny part of this is it's a mid-cycle release, And so now you have a bunch of people in Canada, essentially, well, it's going to cost me $400. Like, what else do you want to? What else do you want to complain about, you hoser?
Nice, yeah, and it's currency. I mean, the currency in Canada is weaker against the dollar. Like, you guys get paid proportionately. I'm sure of that. I'm sure you probably get paid more than the average worker in the United States as well. As far as like, I'm not saying like that. Again, that's not anything political, and don't interpret it that way, because there's nothing political about that statement and that I'm intending. But I'm saying that is proportionate. Like, look, everything in Canada, like you mentioned before, like books and magazines on the back, they say
it looks like it looks like the average income is actually pretty in line with each other to the USD, but I just have trouble believing that, because
everything in Canada is more expensive, like, compared to the US dollar. That's just the way it is. And like the Xbox and the PlayStation, if you bought one of those are going to be $100 more expensive too, maybe probably more, So it is what it is. Like, if you enjoy playing video games in Canada, you're probably always paid a higher premium on them, like a higher amount of money.
I'm just sick of hearing, like, I got to be honest, and again, not political. I just don't know why that's even part of the conversation. Like, that's what bothers me more. Like, why the fuck is this even part of the conversation? Well, I'm in Canada, so it costs more. Well, do we really want to go down that path? As far
maybe video gaming isn't for you. I don't know. It's not essential. Just don't buy one then. Nobody's twisting your arm. Nobody's holding a gun to your head.
Hey, guess what? The thing that is essential for life, you're actually getting for free in Canada.
Exactly. Congratulations on that, by the way. I am super envious. Super envious.
Jesus. Anyway, so
enjoy your awesome life up there.
Hey, yeah. So anyway, so I want to hit on a Twitter comment. So before we started the podcast, I'd asked, what do you want us to talk about? And we got a response, a few, but Old Game Fanboy, and he's mentioned this before. Nintendo tries all of these new hardware ideas, but then stick to the same old games over and over. They do. That's fair. But there are great games over and over, right?
They don't disappoint.
And I want to remind...
Same franchises. It's not the same games. It's the same franchises.
Same franchises, not the same games. And, they do take little bits of risks here and there as far as Splatoon and ARMS or whatever that's coming out. But it's also fair to say they haven't had a major Punch-Out release. Like, they have such a huge roster of games, they could come back with a Metroid, depending on the Metroid, or like I just said, a Punch-Out, or...
Well, they've yeah, you're right. And let me cut in here real quick. They've kind of sat a couple of those franchises for the last couple consoles anyways, right? Metroid, I don't remember. Was there one on the Wii or the Wii U?
Mm-mm.
Like a original, like new idea? No. Okay. Well, they have so many great franchises. They've actually sat some of them through some of the consoles. Wii U didn't have a Punch-Out. We did, which is great.
It's a great one.
But Wii U never had a Punch-Out. They've sat that one for the last console release. They can just shuffle them in and out. They can, So I don't know. I mean, they have their standards. That's on like every system.
My thing, and I can completely agree. If you've had your... Here's the thing. Not every game, not every system is for everybody. And if you've had your fair share of Nintendo, maybe through your 3DS or the Wii U or the Wii or whatever else you've maybe purchased, maybe you want to sit this one out. I mean, that is certainly an option. Like, Nintendo is not requiring, you to buy the system. And I actually think, I'm going to make the joke because I think this listener is actually in Canada. Canada's not forcing you to buy the Switch at $399. No one's forcing you to do it. So if you're not feeling it, don't buy it, of all. But if it's down to the games, I mean, let's talk this one out. Forza 6, Forza Horizon 3, Gears of War 4, Uncharted 4, Titanfall 2, Last of Us 2. It's Assassin's
I don't see any trends here.
Assassin's Creed 9 million, Halo 78, right? Like, the list goes on and on and on. It's not just Nintendo. I mean, at the end of the day, you know what? These consoles and publishers and developers don't want to take risks on new IP because for the most part, the new IP does not sell, right? And so, a new IP costs Dead Rising 4. New IP costs a ton of money to get up and running, and you better be damn sure you're going to extend it, right? If you're going to do a new IP, it's usually a game that you're going to dedicate yourself for at least 3 releases. And why does Nintendo need to do it? They released Splatoon, which is fucking phenomenal, but Nintendo doesn't need to do it. Sony, Microsoft probably, but I don't know. I don't go to Nintendo for that. I go to Nintendo for Nintendo characters, and I don't know what other they've got plenty of characters, and I don't know what else I would ever. I guess I don't have that complaint.
I understand I totally understand the question. I understand the relevancy of it, but I think you had a really, really good point on that. Yeah, like look at all the games that have come out in here that are sequels. The most important fact to me, I mean, it's all subjective, I'm sure, but the most important fact to me is that, like, look, if Nintendo was saying, "Oh, on the Switch, you know, we're not going to use any of our other franchises. We're going to come up with all new games on it," I'd be like, I'm not fucking buying a Switch. Like, the whole reason I buy you're right. The whole reason I would buy any particular system, I'm not interested in any of the Xbox or PlayStation franchises right now. I'm interested in Nintendo ones. That's why I would buy that. You know, I could easily buy, I could easily buy either of those right now, but I don't want to. I don't have any. I don't have any connection to any of these franchises. Like that's if basically the reason Nintendo is doing that is to get people to buy Nintendo machines.
Yeah, I would just make the argument that, like, if you're not feeling the Nintendo franchises anymore, there's other systems available to purchase, and I do get it. Like, here's the thing. I get the fact that you go, Nintendo has been so creative in the past and they created all of these great franchises. Why not try something new? And I feel like, especially with how bad the Wii U sold, I don't think Nintendo is in the business of extending themselves by creating more risk in the market. I think what Nintendo's probably looking to do with the Switch after that debacle is say, here's a Zelda, here's a Mario, here's a Punch-Out, here's a Metroid, here's a Donkey Kong, right? And they did it.
It only makes sense,
you know, and not take risk. And if it starts to pick up and sell, I could see Nintendo maybe throwing other new IP in the mix. But at the end of the day, if this thing sells, Nintendo doesn't need to be the one creating new IP, because third party will come along and create new IP for them, right? And so I don't know if it's fair to expect Nintendo, who has, again, constantly they've been consistent in how they do business. These are our franchises. We always do a gimmick. We're concerned about releasing hardware that makes sense for the games that we are going to develop and publish. And I just don't know if it's fair to expect them to change in 2017. They're very old. And I'm certainly been critical of them in the past, but I just don't know if that's what Nintendo is. And if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to find it in Nintendo, unfortunately. And I do agree. I do want to see new IPs because Splatoon was amazing, and maybe ARMS will be that on the Switch, but that's not what we're going to get with Nintendo. And so I go in saying, well, I do know what I'm going to get with Nintendo, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Well, and on the other side of the coin too, I'm sure, like, you know, it's just like thanks for the contribution. We appreciate that. And part of it's just like, well, here's a contribution. Here's something to talk about. You know, I'm sure he understands all that stuff as well. So there's nothing against, you know, don't let any of this sound like it's like an attack or anything like that, because
I don't. And to be clear, I don't think he will, because we've tweeted back and forth and I've said some of those same things. And look, this is one of those times where it just drives conversation, right? Well, I'm not sitting here saying I'm right.
Totally.
I'm not telling somebody that they're wrong. Like,
it's just an opinion. That's why we have a podcast, right?
Right, and that's why we're also on Twitter. And if, you know,
podcasts are like assholes.
Podcasts are now like assholes. I can completely understand where he's coming from, because at the end of the day, I would also like to see more new IP from Nintendo. I would, but I just don't know if they're in a position to do that right now after how shitty the Wii U sold. So yeah. So that, I guess the answer is, I feel like maybe Nintendo is probably going to go more conservative from their development publishing for the next at least year until they see how this thing sells. So
yeah, I mean that all makes sense. I mean, you came up with some really good points on there, and I'm sure you've already hashed all those out or whatever. But that's things that I hadn't thought of, so I'm glad you brought them up. So, but good points. I mean, good points on the I mean, with your system, you have to take all your first party games or your games that are exclusive to your system, and that's your bread and butter. That's why people buy your systems. Otherwise, if you don't have that, like if Sega decides to come out with a system like next year and they don't have any Sonics or anything like that, and say like, well, we sold all those franchises, or we licensed them out, and somebody eventually sold or bought like Sonic or some crap like that, you're not going to buy that Sega console just because it's Sega. You got to show me some Sonics or something, or you got to whatever, you know, maybe Wonder Boy or something, or that's not even exclusive, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, for sure. I mean, you need, well, in that example, like, especially these publishers and devs that have been around for a long time, you need to play to your strengths. And, you know, as a brand, Nintendo's strengths are the fact that they have a stable of characters that everybody recognizes, and they have a Zelda coming out, and or in the case of Sega, if they decided to get back in the hardware market, it would be Sonic. What they're not going to do is say, hey, remember us, we're Sega, or hey, remember us, we're Nintendo, which they essentially need to say, because the Wii U sold so bad. They're not going to be like, hey, we know you didn't buy the Wii U, but here's this new IP that you don't recognize, right? They're going to play to their strengths, and I think the market is telling them to play to their strengths, right? Again, they weren't a major player in Pokemon, but Pokemon was downloaded, a record amount of times in the first week, and then Super Mario Run crushed it with 40 million downloads in the first week. And by the way, it was also $10, and a record amount of people actually paid the $10 to buy it, right? So I think Nintendo's going like, we get it, you maybe want new IP, but we just released this mobile game that went gangbusters, despite what the internet wants to make you think, because you can't play it on Planes with a Snake.
Planes with the Snake.
You know, I think that's where Nintendo's going. So, and so I think that's kind of the answer. Whether I don't know if that's the answer everyone wants to hear, but I think that's the answer. So, and speaking of planes, really quick, just a segue before we close out here. The Nintendo Switch's battery power off dock has been brought into question because it's anywhere from 2.5 to 6 hours of battery life. I don't know what people's expectations are, but my cell phone, if I was playing games on it, would probably last 3 or 4 hours. My 3DS, when I'm playing games on it, lasts about 3 hours. My Vita lasts about 3 hours. And guess the conversation. What if I'm on a plane?
Is that the go-to for pretty much everybody?
It's always the go-to, and I don't know what kind of planes people are flying on, but the last time I flew, I was on a Delta flight to Los Angeles, and I had a USB charger right next to me. So I'm not sure what this complaint about what if I'm on a plane is. Seems like people just want to bitch about apparently way more people fly a lot than I'd imagine. Like, you know,
that's the only time everybody ever games.
When I'm on a plane, I will generally game for a little bit, maybe read a book. Like, I'm never, like, by the time I get up in the air and I can finally turn on my electronic device, like when he's like, we're now at the flying level. You can go ahead and turn on your electronic devices if you so feel fit. I want to let you know that we do have Wi-Fi available. I just fucking hate this what if I'm on a plane argument that's all of a sudden like...
Well, specifically, I mean, I think these people, I think you're just misunderstanding the comment, because if you really think about it, I think they're talking about like biplanes and stuff. Like you're on an old-timey biplane or some shit like that.
That doesn't have the USB, Yeah.
What are you supposed to do with a Nintendo Switch? And I think that's a pretty valid question. So, like, I really don't think you should be shitting on that question so much, because I think they actually have a point there.
Yeah, or they're flying like Sun Country for $99.
Propeller ones.
You know, it's again,
maybe like a hot air balloon or something.
What if I'm on a plane? Then you'll get to play your Nintendo Switch for 3 hours of that whatever plane ride you might be on. Oh, by the way,
if I'm on a Zeppelin?
By the way, if you have a layover, you can go to one of the USB ports that's in every airport ever and charge it. God, it's just...
What if I'm on a Zeppelin that's crashing into the earth in a fiery blaze, though? What am I supposed to do about the Nintendo Switch?
What if I'm on a cross-country road trip, which the Nintendo Switch has told me that it's great for, and I'm in a 2004 vehicle instead of a 2014 vehicle, and it doesn't have USB
What if you're
ports?
in like a 1950s like Chevy something or other? Like, what are you supposed to do in that case? What if you're on like a tricycle?
What if I'm on a plane that's a new like Delta that actually has the USB ports and all that, but there's snakes on that plane and they break the electrical that allows my Switch to charge off USB?
Well, that's exactly what would happen.
God.
What if you were on like a skateboard? What are you supposed to do with this? Where are you supposed to plug the Switch in there?
What if I was on a plane with snakes on it that ate the USB, and this was a Canadian flight that I actually had to pay more for the ticket, and I paid more for my Nintendo Switch?
What if you were on one of those big unicycle things, like way up in the air? How are you supposed to concentrate on balancing on that thing and playing your Nintendo Switch at the same time?
I was trying to think of something else to say. I've run out of ideas. Sometimes we run jokes.
What if you're on a street luge or something like luging down the street? How are you supposed to pay attention for cars and shit? Or how are you supposed? What if your charge runs out while you're luging down the streets of New York City?
That's a good. What if I'm on a Greyhound bus cross country that doesn't have USB ports, and none of the rest stops have USB ports, and the next thing I know, I need to blow a semi driver in order to use his USB port?
What if you were on one of those old-timey trains? It's like in Back to the Future 3 that burns coal and shit. Like, that's what, exactly. Good answer to all of the questions, all of the above.
With that,
it pretty much sums it up right there. Anyway, let me say this before we wrap this up. I just want to say, with the Southern Fried Gamer Expo this year, Skrilly Mitchell is now going to be back this year. He was not there last year, and I was kind of disappointed about that. But even though the rest of it was awesome, good old Skrilly Mitchell himself will be at SFGE this year from June, which runs, I think it's like June 9th, 10th, and 11th or something. I'm not sure about those dates, but I just want to go ahead and throw that in there because I could. June 9th through 11th. Yes, I was right.
I probably am not going to be able to make that because my daughter turns 1.
On the 4th.
That is true. And I turn...
You got 5 days.
And I turned 35 on the 12th.
The next day, yeah.
So...
yeah, it's perfect. It's like Kismet, man. There you go.
The good news
the
is
9th through 11th.
The good news is I can always like swing the like, but it's my birthday too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Be like,
Oh, that's not going to work anymore.
yeah, my birthday's now her birthday. Now I'm really like, do not buy me anything. Just give us.
Plus,
money.
you're at the point too where it's like, ew. Well, I can tell you this.
I've never said like as an adult, I don't try to like celebrate my birthdays. I feel like it's kind of douchey, but I certainly
No, I don't either.
Like, I will pull the birthday card if I need to get my way.
Yeah, I'm not above it, but all I'm saying is you're turning 35 this year, so like, it's kind of that point where it's like I don't really want to acknowledge that I'm in my mid 30s now. So like, but I just thought of this. You know what the positive of turning 35 is?
No.
And not to get political here, but now you can become president.
Well, and as we all know, anybody can become president.
That's exactly everyone that heard that's point. Yes, I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome.
This could go one
Would
of
you
two.
vote for me?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'd vote for you, Mitch. What are you running on? Are you a racist? Are you a misogynist?
Well, what do you want me to run on?
Misogyny.
I can be anything.
Misogyny. JRPGs.
Sure. Absolutely. That's what it is. That's what I'm running on. That's my platform. But
it's just, yeah.
Anyway, well, you're at that age, so there's an election coming up in 4 years.
I have too many. I have too many skeletons in my closet. Well, fuck, Jesus, Donald Trump got elected.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
As long as I come out, and just say like I didn't mean what I said, or those are fake. Those are faked facts, or that's alternative facts. Yeah, I feel you.
I'll tell you what. All you got to do is be like, "Oh, that was different."
Oh, that was different. Yeah, I saw. So in Minnesota, even though I love Minnesota, and we live in I live in a fantastic area. I don't know
Wonderland.
What you want to say about Atlanta, but I love myself me some Minnesota and Minneapolis.
I give Atlanta a firm meh.
But rural Minnesota really drives home the bumpkinness of the lowercase KKK that runs around this country. And I was out running errands Friday afternoon, and I saw like 3 gigantic jacked up, like, I don't know, like Ford Broncos, like old Ford Broncos or something, with pipes with gigantic American flags just like attached to them. I'm like, fucking A, dog.
Wow.
This guy shits on gold toilets. You're an idiot.
Literally.
I would, if I would have that, and I'll be honest, if I had that much money, I'd probably have a gold toilet too. I might not. I might even have someone invent something that when I shit, my poop just disappears. Like the toilet doesn't even need water. But let's not pretend. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to get political. Gosh, fucking.
No, we shouldn't. I think at this point, no one is listening anymore anyway, so let's go.
At this point, we've lost all of the Packers fans that were at the Atlanta game.
Oh, I think we lost them immediately. I was a big Falcons fan today. I was the biggest Falcons fan. I'll tell you this.
I'm not 2 weeks from
just real quick. No. I told all my Falcons friends I'm like, today, and I'm totally gonna like go buy up a bunch of temporary Falcons gear and then return it right after the game. But yeah, I was like, we went to this like play place for my kid where there's like bouncy houses and crap that are indoors, so they're not gonna fly away. But
I'm glad you just said that because I was just about to ask that question.
I know I had to say it because I know that you were going to say that.
The minute you were like bouncy houses, I was like, oh my God.
I know. I was like, no, let me just stop you right there. I know we obviously know each other too well. Anyway, indoor bouncy houses, the safe ones that aren't going to fly off, and take my kid with them. So we're like in this place today.
I'm sorry,
and, like,
if that ever happened outside with your kid or my kid,
I would have to laugh.
There would just be this ironic piece of it where you laugh for at least a half a second and then go,
and then he'd be like, holy shit,
fuck, my kid's in there.
You'd just be like, oh, you'd be like laugh coughing.
There'd be like a half a second where I'm like, Mitch is not going to believe this. My kid just flew away in a bouncy house. And then there'd be like another half a second. There'd be like another half a second where I'm like, oh, fuck.
Pure horror.
My kid just flew away in a bouncy house.
That'd be a tough situation, man. Tough in several different ways. But anyway, so yeah, I clarified that. So we have a 10-minute lead into this just short story here that has probably every connection it had before was like severed at this point. But anyways, all the dads were like watching the game on these TVs that they had there, and including me. And like I was watching my kid too, but I was totally watching the game, and I just wanted to like. I'm so passionate about like hating the Packers. I had to catch myself. I don't know how many times, just being like, "Fuck you, Rodgers," or like flipping the TV off or some shit, or like throwing something at the TV. Like I had to catch myself. Like I don't know how many times because there's like probably like 60 kids.
Oh yeah,
and I almost went ballistic and started knocking kids over and stuff like that just because I was so excited that the Packers were getting beat so bad.
Any kid that's like wearing green, you could just beat the fuck out of them, and then all of a sudden you're
just
like,
knock them over.
And he's like, it's Ninja Turtles, and they're like, oh, you're cool.
I'll be like, oh, that's dope.
Hey, speaking of that, did you so I'm sure you saw the commercials with Bill Cowher and the one where he's like, not enough football, and then he gets downstairs in the basement. He's like, too much football, and then the perfect mix of football. I can't take Bill Cowher seriously anymore because I don't know if you knew this. If you didn't, you need to go watch it.
But he's actually a bulldog?
No, he was dating like some younger singer. She's like 25.
Wait, Bill Cowher?
Bill Cowher
like recently?
Yeah, recently. And she actually like talked him into being in her music video, but it was like a hip hop music video. And like Bill
No way.
Yeah, and Bill Cowher would just randomly show up. Hold on, let me get your reaction. I'm gonna send it to you.
I'm looking for it right now. I'm already ahead of you. Music video. There it is.
Queen V, Cry Your Eyes Out. And
Queen V.
He just shows up.
I thought he had a family and stuff. I can't hear the music on it for some reason, but I'm not gonna I don't care because I think I'm probably better off.
Yeah, he has eyeshadow on here. Like I'm like, oh
no way.
Yeah. Yeah, here.
By the way, if you're still listening to this, wow. We just haven't hit the stop button yet.
Nah, so I usually just let it run long now. See, here's the thing about podcasts, Mitch. A lot of people do this bullshit at the beginning. We kind of just do it.
Is it called Cry Your Eyes Out?
I think so. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I haven't seen Bill Cowher yet.
Oh, he only shows up for like...
Oh, wait, there he is. What? I just rewound the same thing like probably like 6 times.
You can't unsee that.
I literally cannot unsee that. I thought he had a family and stuff. Wait, what happened to that?
I think he went Tiki Barber on it. Or like Tiki,
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, Tiki Barber had like a wife and like 4 kids, and then he like started banging like a 20-year-old. Had like Fox Sports or something. When his wife was about to give delivery to his kid, and then he like filed divorce.
There's Bill Cowher again.
Oh, you want to hear something else funny? You know Russell Simmons, right? Run DMC. He's on TMZ. Speaking of fucking people that can't get over themselves, he walks up to like a limousine of like 20-year-old girls in Los Angeles or Hollywood. And apparently he has his own yoga studio. And TMZ's got him on camera. So Russell Simmons walks up to this limo. He's like, hey, I've got this yoga studio, blah, 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 blah. And one of the girls is like, why are there cameras on you? And then Russell Simmons is like, he says this because he thinks he's important. He's like, oh, just ignore them. I've got this yoga studio, blah, 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 blah. You guys can come up tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, free yoga. No. Then he keeps looking back at the camera. These girls have no fucking idea who he is. Other than the fact that like, he's hoping that they think he's somebody rich because they're like, you know, the paparazzis around him. Mm-hmm. The awkward level of Russell Simmons trying to get these like 10, 20-year-olds to his yoga studio in the morning and being like, just ignore those cameras, girls. I'm someone important. It was the most awkward thing I've seen in 2017.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And there will be more awkward things, but this was you got
like that's it right now. It hasn't been topped yet.
It hasn't been topped yet. Yeah, it was just like the look he gives the camera, the TMZ camera, and then looks back in the limo like, "Oh, just ignore those cameras." And they have no idea. They have no idea who he even is. They have no idea who he is. It was one of the. It was one of the best, most awkward things, because that's why we used to watch the cooking show. I can't even remember its name anymore.
Top Chef?
No. The one with Gordon Ramsay that used to be good, but it's no longer good.
Oh, MasterChef.
MasterChef. Yeah, we used to watch it though because people would come in like riding
before it was terrible.
Yeah, they were riding like unicorns, and they'd make a corn dog. That was the best part.
Right. Yes.
Like, that's why you'd watch it. Like, that's what this was. It was Russell
Well,
Simmons.
just because he'd rip them apart and be like, this is the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Like, there's not even a dog in it. This is beef.
By the way, when you've been saying that, do you still have that video pulled up?
Bill Cowher? No, I don't. Why? What's up?
I was going to say it like 203. And anybody, Queen V, cry your eyes out.
Yeah, there's fire behind it. Is that the part where there's fire behind him? Because there's a moment where
she'll like move her head, and then he has this like smile, and he like nods his head, yeah, or something. Like, I've been watching that over and over because it's fucking stupid. And oh wait, and then he gets in a fight with somebody. What are you doing? Yeah, you totally ruined Bill Cowher as like a dude that I would respect.
Well, since we're on this, I'm going to send you this TMZ link. Just, you got to get this on them. But since we're this far in, you got to watch this video real quick. Watch this video. So
we just refuse to close this one out today.
No, we're not going to close it out because I want everyone else to watch this video and see what not to do. Because just watch it where he gives the look to the camera and says, "No, just ignore them." He's like, "Nah, just ignore them." I'm some
Hold on. Oh my god. And then, by the way, I finally got the audio to work on that song. It's fucking terrible.
Well, Nicky Six takes his music seriously, so he probably loves it.
Yeah, he probably is just sitting in the background going, I'm going to produce this one. And it's just like, pew, 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 pew. All right, I got it.
All right.
It's taking a second, though.
Yeah, it will. I mean, you might get a commercial, too.
Hope not. Hate commercials. Yeah, I finally got the audio on that. Oh wait, here we go.
This makes for great podcasting. We keep listening. It's so good because it comes up soon. No.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to watch that a couple times to really get the. Don't mind them.
Oh yeah. Okay, maybe it wasn't as funny as I initially thought, but
I don't know. It's like choppy as hell right now, so I don't know. I can't really get the full experience. I'll have to watch it later.
All right. Well, it is what it is. All right. Well,
indeed.
Maybe we close this
all
one.
Right,
what do you think?
I think it's about high time we close this one out. So. For RetroGameFix.com, the Retro Jones podcast number 103. This is Mitch.
And this is Mike, and this podcast is free in the United States, but if you're in Canada, it's free 99. Free 99!
We'll catch you next week.
See ya.